Welcome to the August update of the New Haven Willoughby Line. I've got a lot done on the extension, but a lot more to go, so hopefully we'll show you some progress in this update, and should be pretty interesting, so stick around. Thanks. So this is a view of the progress I've made so far. I've got the lift out section pretty much already. Last night I finished gluing the inner track, so I need to cut this. I figured if I glued it first and then cut it, it would be easier. I'm not sure, I could be wrong. I'm not experienced a lot with flex track. So I figured with the flex track, if I glued it, got it in place securely, then cut it, it would be a heck of a lot easier than trying to get it to line up as flex track. So I'm going to cut that and show you what happens when I do that. So we'll be right back. Okay, so this proved to be a little bit more dangerous than I thought. I caught the top of my finger on the edge of that rail as I was trying to get some of the material away from underneath here. Thought I was being safe, but obviously accidents always happen, and so I had to take a little break to clean up a little bit of blood, but I think I'm in good shape. So I've got the section out. I think I've got it trimmed enough that I can put the rail joiners on. Obviously, having the track split on a curve is proving to be not the best way to do this. So unfortunately, that's the design I have to go with, so I'm going to have to make this work. I've got a couple of solutions, or really options, to try once I get this thing back in place to see how bad the rails actually line up. They did get a little loose from the glue. There's some movement here. So let's get this back on and see what it looks like. Okay, so this looks like an absolute disaster, but I've got a couple of solutions to try. There's some movement here that I can get corrected. My problem is getting the rail joiners to slide under the ties enough that I can slide them out. So like on this section here, I've got enough room back here that when I want to remove this, I just slide them back, and then when I'm ready to join, I can't, my hand's in the way, but I can just push them pretty easily and they join back. So if I do this, now both are, in place, and it's a pretty decent gap to work with. It's almost, as good as most of my other gaps. So this one is going to be a problem though. Not sure I have enough room. I may need to make shorter rail joiners, so I may need to Dremel those. This one's going to be the harder one on the outside, but I'm also thinking that the rail joiners will help hold the rail. I just need this rail, the outside, to just come in a bit, and the rail joiner should hopefully fix that, and then I can glue the ties down so it'll basically function as this back one. But we'll see. So I'm going to make some adjustments and see what happens after. So we'll be back. Okay, so I've got it hooked up and I've got the rail joiners in. I had to cut a little bit more than I thought I was going to need to in order to get them to slide. I believe the outside one is going to go this way, and this one on the inside the outside is going to go on the other direction. So they'll go in opposite directions, which I'll have to kind of keep track of. Hopefully I don't need to remove this a whole bunch, maybe once every other year, hopefully. But if I need to, that's how I will have to do it. The rail comes in, it gets pushed in a little bit because I had to cut a couple of these ties here, so I'm going to glue it to the best of my ability and kind of position it, let it cure as best I can. This tie moves, so I need to get that more stable and push it this way a little bit so it kind of holds that rail a little bit better. But there was a happy accident that occurred. I initially thought that there was going to be a huge gap on this section, something like that. But what happened is, because it's flex track and it's Atlas flex track, I have this leftover rail, so I was able to just slide that in. So now I can almost have no gap if I want, but I need to have some kind of gap so that when I do remove this and put it back down, it doesn't hit and cause problems. Like you can see here on this section, these two rails come together very nicely, so when I slide that rail joiner together, there's almost no gap. It just makes it a little bit more difficult when I place this whole piece back in to line that up. I'm gonna have 2, 4, 6, 8 sections or 8 rails that I need to line up. And I know people suggest doing all kinds of clamps and things to get things in order, but to make this stay in the same exact place every time. But honestly, I need the trains to run over these tough sections, so I kind of need to line it up the best I can with the rails so the rails join up. So it's kind of so far it's been kind of easy with this section. This section here is going to prove to be the most difficult. It hits at the I don't know how to say it, but the worst angle across the rails, the two rails. This one, it's going to hit them more or less head on at a slight angle, so these should be more or less easy. You can see I just have the rail joiners already, and they just slide into place, if you can see, and they slide pretty easily. So this section's not going to be hard when I get the track there. This is the worst section, but I'm honestly afraid of gaps, especially on a curve, because I'm afraid the flanges are going to slide right through those gaps. I guess the rail joiners will prevent that because it's not a direct hole, but I'm just a little afraid of having too much gap there. So I will probably leave as little of a gap as possible. I may need to pull this rail back slightly so I've got some play. So I am thinking maybe something like that, glue it into place the best I can, and I should be good to go. So, but you can see I've got my lightest car, probably, or one of them, I'm gonna run out of track, and a passenger, which is, got the 3 axles, or the 6 axles total. So, and it goes over it pretty smoothly without a problem. So if I leave as is, things should be good. And I ran the locomotive over that section 2 before I started up the video again. And with the weight of the locomotive, everything seems to work well. So I'm pretty satisfied the way things are. I'm not a big fan of that gap there, but I'm gonna have to let it be. This is just bothering me here, and you can see there's some play here. So I want to secure that up with these. I may end up actually putting a tie underneath this section right here, right on the edge, so I can kind of glue that down. Hopefully that will hold. The joiner does a decent enough job, but it's a slight kink, and the width between the 2 rails gets slightly narrower right across here. I don't think I'm gonna have any derailments, but since I'm starting this project and I've already got challenges with my track design going across this gap, which is insane, I want to make sure that I do everything up front as best I can given my circumstances. So not sure if there's going to be much more to this update, but we will check back in a minute when I get this secured and dried, and we'll see how that looks. So stay tuned. Okay, it's the next morning. I added some more track and let that dry overnight. So let me flip the camera around and show you what I've got next and what I'm planning on working on now. And how far I get on the next step will either be on the rest of this video or be on the next month's. I'm not sure yet. So let me turn the camera around and show you what I did so far. Okay, so I got this area. Let me back this train up here so you can see. I got this area pretty well resolved. This rail joiner will slide, I believe, back into this space here. And what I did is I added a couple of spikes, one here and one here, which will hopefully hold the rail enough this direction. And this gap seems to be okay. I don't know if I can get a smaller one in. At this point I'm going to leave as is. But so I used 2 spikes, and I'm not sure if you can see them. There's one there and one right by my fingertip, which is hopefully pushing the rail slightly towards the other track. And if I can get this rail joiner back on, it will hopefully eliminate the narrowing of the rails. It looks pretty good on video. I think I've done a lot of test running. It seems to be working. And then last night I added this next section of flex track. Now the next bit that I'm working on is I'm kind of designing this whole table, or this whole new section, around this idea here, is that I've got a road that goes under the tracks. I don't have a road going under tracks. I've got a train going over a train, but I don't have train going over road. So I don't have any kits yet or materials to build one. I've been making templates of what I'm going to put in here, and it's going to essentially be at about here. The only issue I've got is I'm going to have a crossover right here, and it can slide, this way or that way, depending. But essentially, I think I want my road pretty much here, underneath the double tracks here, but I'm not sure of the spacing, so I left some give so I can have a little bit of curve if I need to go wider. I don't think I'm going to have to go closer together with the 2 tracks, but I may have to go wider than they are at the straight points here. So I want to leave some give. So what I may do is, I'm anxious to get more track laid, so I may do something like putting the crossover here to allow some extra room. But again, if I need to come out a little bit, it's going to be kind of like an out and back kind of thing. It wouldn't be drastic. You probably wouldn't notice it. It would only be a tiny bit, but I don't want to secure these parts down yet. But I also need to pick this track up to be able to cut the wood underneath it too. So I'm kind of at a standstill without having an exact measurement. So I think I'm going to go with the Walters through plate that I have, or that I want to get. I've got one over here, and I used this as kind of a template, and then I've got a single track on the other side in the distance there. So I think I'm going to go with another one of these, just have the road go under it in this section. And these are the correct length, so from end to end, and the width this way is not, and I don't have exactly where the tracks would be, so the spacing is kind of where I'm at. But I want to double check and make sure that my design will work, having the road go underneath here, and then the question is, where is it going to go back in that space? So I'm thinking I want it to be under and then rise up, so it will be at a higher elevation, and I would have kind of a town or street that goes up into the distance, so to speak. So that's kind of the plan. And then under here, the road would eventually come back up to this level here. So the road's going to essentially dip underneath the tracks. And how I make that, disguise it, and all of that stuff, where's it going to come, where's it going to go, I think I'm going to have a town here, so buildings on the left and right side of the road, that will have an industry backing up to it over here from, I've got my coffee in the way, but there's going to be a track that comes off here and will essentially run into the back of these buildings here. So I think that's pretty much it for now. I've got a lot of work to do. I don't have a jigsaw, so I'm trying to think of the most efficient way to cut this wood as well. I screwed it down in a few places, but I can certainly unscrew it and pick it up. And it's in, this is one big piece. It ends over here. So it's a pretty big chunk. But that's where I'm at now, is trying to figure out where and how this road is going to work. What's going to be on the left side, what's going to be on the right side, how it's going to dip under, how much under I need to go. And then this is another spot that I'm really not sure what to do. So whether I have the road come up and make a T and go both directions along the back wall and come over here, but I want it to blend into this area nicely and also be able to lift out. I'm thinking of having an industry where these two flatbeds are, or flat cars are, on this track, because this is just kind of a utility track. It doesn't service anything, so I'm thinking of having something, probably a DPM kit that will fit on the edge here. And so yeah, so that's the section. And then I've got, you know, the rest of it, which is a lot more work obviously, but that's where I'm at. So I think that'll probably do it for this month's update. And next month, hopefully, I'll have the wood cut, the bridge, and see what else I get. So thanks for sticking around. It's been kind of a productive but long update. So have a good rest of your August, and we'll see you next month.